My dad kicked me out after finding out that I am pregnant and called me a disgrace. Now he wants to be in my daughter's life after finding out who her father is. I was 18 when I told my father I was pregnant. He gave me 2 hours to pack and get out. Said I'd chosen to ruin myself so I could figure out the consequences alone. Changed the locks while I sat on the front step of his house with 2 garbage bags of clothes and nowhere to go. My daughter's father was a one-night thing during freshman orientation at college. I didn't even know his last name, just that he went by Henry and was visiting from Norway. Never saw him again after that night. Didn't have his number, didn't know his school, nothing. I dropped out, moved into a shelter, had Lila alone in a county hospital while my father told everyone I'd run off to be a stripper in Vegas. 5 years of absolute hell followed. Waiting tables at a diner where customers grabbed my arm for $2 tips. Living in a studio apartment with black mold creeping up the bathroom wall and roaches in the cabinets. Lila sleeping in a dresser drawer lined with a folded towel because I couldn't afford a crib. Food stamps, WIC appointments, walking 3 miles to work because the bus didn't run that early. My father lived 20 minutes away in the 5-bedroom house I grew up in. The one with the circular driveway and the lawn service that came every Thursday. He never called, never visited. Told the whole extended family I was dead to him. My brother Elliot would secretly meet me at parks, bring Lila clothes from thrift stores, slip me $40 when he could, but he was too scared to do more. Our father had threatened to cut him off too if he helped me, and Elliot was still in college, still living under the same roof, still dependent on the man for tuition. I made it work though. Got my GED through an online program while Lila slept in that drawer beside my mattress. Started community college when she turned 3. Found better waitressing shifts, saved every penny in a coffee can taped under the sink, moved us to a slightly safer building with a working deadbolt. Lila was brilliant, funny, started reading at 4, could do basic addition before kindergarten. Everything I did, every double shift, every skipped meal so she could eat, was for her. My mother had died when I was 14, a fast cancer that took her in a single brutal summer. And after that, my father turned grief into control. He went to church twice a week and ran our house like a reputation he was protecting. Image was everything to him. The right neighbors, the right car, the right story to tell at the country club. A pregnant teenage daughter with no husband and no explanation was a stain he refused to carry. So he cut me off like a rotten branch and went back to his clean, quiet, respectable life. For 5 years, I existed in his version of the world as a cautionary tale he told over coffee. The ungrateful girl who threw away every advantage he'd given her. Nobody from that world ever reached out. Not one aunt, not one cousin, not one of the church friends who'd watched me grow up. They believed him because believing him was easier than wondering what kind of man locks his pregnant child out in the cold. The night it happened, I'd planned it for a week. I waited until after dinner, after he'd had his 1 glass of scotch and seemed almost calm. I told him I was pregnant and that I was keeping the baby. He didn't yell at first. That was the part that still wakes me up sometimes. He set down his glass very carefully, looked at me like I was a stranger who'd broken into his house, and asked who the father was. I told him the truth, that it had been one night, that I didn't know how to find the man. He stood up, walked to the kitchen, and came back with a calm I will never forget. He told me I had 2 hours. He said the word disgrace twice, slow, like he was tasting it. He said my mother would be ashamed, which was the cruelest thing he could have reached for, because he knew my mother would have held me. He watched me cry and pack, and he did not move to help. When I came back down with my bags, the locksmith was already in the driveway. He'd called the man before he even told me to leave. That detail mattered to me for years afterward. The planning of it, the way he'd decided my exile before he'd given me a single chance to explain. I slept in my car the first 2 nights. The old hatchback that was technically in my name because he'd bought it used. Full story linked in comments.